Welcome to the Complete Streets Commission, October 9th regular commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in accordance with public health guidelines. First, let's do the roll call. I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and city staff present. I'm Chair Sally Cole. Commissioners present include Brian Ottman, Meredith Bergen Bailey, Athena Arakomos, Vice Chair Elizabeth King, Jackie Sebrian, woo, hello Commissioner Sebrian, and Matthew Raskoff. City staff present include Kevin Chen. Remote Commission member Matthew Raskoff, please provide a general description of the circumstances for participating remotely through AB 2449 Just Cause.
Through the chair, just if you can give me 1 second, I still do not see Commissioner Raskoff on the panel yet. So I think for the time being, perhaps we can just continue. Yeah.
Yeah. If he does, then we can do it again.
I'll alert the chair when he arrives.
Okay, no problem. Kevin, would you please provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, just want to acknowledge that I am tonight also playing dual role of just staff liaison, but also the public announcement commentator. And the reason for doing so is because our dear colleague, ex-colleague Matthew Hui is no longer working with the city. He's moved on to greater things. So for on a temporary basis, I'll serve the dual roles until further notice. And
he's moved on to different things.
Yeah, different things. Exactly. Thank you.
What's greater than this?
Okay, so for the member of the public who wish to provide public comment for any items on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on that item, virtual attendees on Zoom may engage the raise hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. And that concludes the instruction. I return the meeting back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Under reports and announcements, city staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Kevin, do you have any reports and announcements?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. So if you can just give me a quick second as I'm pulling up my announcements. Here we go. Okay. So I got a total of 4 items that I would like to update the commission on. First and foremost, the City Council authorized the staff to submit grant applications to fund the design and construction of several improvements. Now, some of you might remember this is actually an item that came to the commission prior to going to the City Council. The funding mechanism will go towards specifically 3 elements. First are 2 intersections where they're going to receive intersection treatments. They are Oak and Oak Knoll, which is near Oak Knoll Elementary.
Very good.
The second one is Sharon and Eastridge, which serves Lion Charter Middle School.
Oh, yep.
So if we are to be successful with that grant, that particular grant would fund the construction portion of those 2 intersections that are currently under design.
Mm-hmm.
The third element, as you all remember, is that Safe Track, Santa Cruz Avenue and Sand Hill Corridor, which came to the commission previously about. If we are to be successful with that grant, we will receive money for both design and construction of the various projects that we have identified for that grant. So as you remember, I think we have about 85% of the projects that were identified in that project that we have included as part of that grant.
In that grant, yeah.
So yeah, so fingers crossed that we are successful with those grants.
That's great news.
The second item, the City Council received a report out from the commission. So thank you to Commissioner Sebrian for taking that on. And then also approve, I'm sorry, yeah, it was.
You want to repeat that so we know? Can you just repeat this particular?
Yeah. So the City Council received a report out from Commissioner Sebrian. So this is the Commission 2023-2024 report out.
Yes,
essentially a looking back at what we've done kind of a
Yes.
pat in the back what we've done last year. They also have approved our 2024-2025 City Council work plan as presented as well. So
By Vice Chair King.
exactly. And
Correct.
thank you, Vice Chair King, for
Yes.
being on standby.
Thank you.
I know that we were the only commission that didn't get any items added to the list. So I think that goes to show how comprehensive we are. The third item is I know some of you are interested in this item. It's not necessarily transportation related, but at the City Council September 10th meeting,
Mhm.
there was a conversation about the unhoused population. It was
Yes.
a conversation that
Yes.
initiated by the Mayor
Mhm.
Taylor. Ultimately, there was some conversation about exactly what this mayor and the council were looking for in terms of the goals for the city relative to the unhoused population. There was an action that took place that night, which is the formation of an ad hoc subcommittee, which consists of the Mayor Taylor and Vice Mayor Combs. So certainly, I think the city, as you all
Yeah.
know, tonight we have an item about parking removal for the Bohannon business area. So certainly, I just want to kind of bring that awareness to the commission that that
Thank
is
you.
separately being worked on by the city manager's office and the city council as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and lastly, and not a city council item, but just wanted to kind of let the commission know that Caltrain, we have this electrification project
Yes.
that's been going on for a while now. They officially launched the full electric fleet, so the train service on Saturday, September 21st. So if you haven't had a chance to take a ride on the new train, I highly recommend it. I've been on there a couple times already. Definitely quieter and just a little bit more smooth than the previous,
really
the diesel.
exciting.
Yeah, so although the first couple of weeks, I think there was some hiccup about schedules and stuff like that, and the whole week of excessive heat advisory didn't help
yeah.
with the scheduling as well, which
Yeah.
unfortunately it is what it is. But I think we're at a better point of hopefully get better services. But if you haven't been on one, I highly recommend it. And with that, I will conclude my reports and announcements. Thank you.
Kevin, that was really helpful, and I want to thank you for reporting out on city council matters that are of interest to us. Vice Chair King?
I was on the city council meeting last night, and a topic that was of interest to me, and I think our council, is that they approved the funding for the flock safety cameras citywide.
Oh,
So that's now in the budget and going forward.
okay. This is a license plate reader
Mhm.
cameras. Okay, they approved that last night. Okay, thank you. Kevin, will you let me know if this is an appropriate time to give an update on a meeting this week between a few of the commission members and a few commission members from EQC? Because the EQC folks just formed a subcommittee that we're going to be cooperating with and interacting with. So I'm happy to give an update, but do you want to give an update?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we should save that for the
Save it.
subcommittee update instead.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
See, I needed your guidance. Thank you. All right. So Meredith will be prepared by the time I say it again. All righty. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks very much. And thank you, Vice Chair King. Oh, don't know what that is. Oh, no problem. On to public comment. So under public comment, at this point in the meeting, members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject that is not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items that are not listed on the agenda, and so the commission can't respond to non-agenda issues that are brought up under this public comment section other than to provide general information. Kevin, can you please call for general public comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So just to allow me to repeat myself, for virtual attendees who wish to provide public comments on non-agendized items tonight, you may engage the raise hand feature, or if you are calling in from a landline or cell phone, dial 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium and make your comment. So I do see one raised hand by former Commissioner Bill Kirsch. So if you can give me 1 second. I think, Mr. Kirsch, you should be able to now speak.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Commissioners, thank you for your work. I served on the Bike Commission and Complete Streets for 8 years. I termed out, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. So I appreciate the sacrifice that you make to do this job. Thank you. I live on Partridge Avenue. Very recently, 40 of my neighbors and I wrote and sent in a letter. I think all of you were copied on it, asking the city to help us slow down traffic on our street, which has become over the years, a high-speed connector between University Drive and El Camino. We have a lot of families on the street. We've been asking the city, we've been begging the city for years to help us. There's been no action whatsoever. We're on some list. And to me, it's very disappointing. Several years ago, I asked the city to consider rubber speed humps as a quick and easy trial. And that idea was poo-pooed. But very recently, I've discovered and learned that Atherton, our neighbor, is leading the way using rubber speed humps. I think they have them in trials on 5 or 6 neighborhood streets. And many other cities, municipalities in the country are using rubber speed humps. They're cheap, less than $100 per speed hump. They're easy to install. They just bolt into the street. They're easy to remove if the trial doesn't go well. I'd really like to see, we'd all on the street like to see some action and ask the city to trial rubber speed humps. And I would just ask Complete Streets Commission to push the city to do this. We can make some quick progress on Vision Zero. I don't know how long we're going to wait. I don't think anything's ever going to happen here, but I think rubber speed humps are cheap and easy. Atherton is using them. They have them on 5 or 6 streets. We talked to the Public Works Director about what they're doing. I'd encourage our city to talk to him, and we'd like to see some action. So thank you very much. Please encourage the city staff, the city council to trial rubber speed humps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirsch. Any more public comment, Kevin? No.
Nope. And happy to maybe address that if the chair so choose. But yeah.
I thought we weren't supposed to.
No, but I can kind of provide a bit of quick context,
Oh.
just so that
Okay.
the commission know what's about the project, about the effort, and then because
Yes,
you'll eventually
that's
come to
fine.
the commission as well. So might as well take this opportunity. So yeah, definitely recognize Mr. Kirsch's comment about the ability to test out rubberized speed humps, and I wanted to kind of first and foremost mention that it is completely on the table at this point. As many of you know, we used to have what we call the Neighborhood Traffic Management Plan, the NTMP. It's very much a labor-intensive process. I don't believe any of the commissioners at this point have been through the process. Maybe Commissioner Cibrian, but I think maybe toward the tail end of one or the other, but will be kind of new to you all. Generally speaking, it's a process that is very labor intensive. Just point of reference, the last one that we approved from beginning to end took about 2-3 years or so from beginning to end. So one of the things that we have been trying to do as a city is to reevaluate that process. And through the effort that we have done with Vision Zero, we are looking to essentially rebrand, if you will, the NTMP program to what we call a Slow Streets program. As a matter of fact, that we do have a website on the city website, which Mr. Kirsch had alluded to about that list. And what we are trying to do is because of the fact that the program itself is currently on hiatus, the NTMP program is on hiatus. So what we're trying to do is we are working internally to come up with a way to look at that process, and eventually we'll come to the Complete Street Commission with a set of recommendations. So I definitely want to recognize that Partridge is one of the streets on that list. As a matter of fact, the entire LIR area, we have about 3 streets that is currently on that list. We have Partridge, Cambridge, and College. And because of that, most likely when the program gets reactivated, and when we come to the Complete Streets Commission with a set of recommended process and project lists, that whole entire area will likely get treated as a single area. just because of the fact that we don't want to necessarily put treatment on the street and push out traffic to the other street without looking at that comprehensively. So I do want to kind of provide that context, but we are definitely to the comment about using rubberized speed humps, that will definitely be on the table when the program comes back. That's a very good question. Thank you very much. We are currently hoping that, so as I mentioned before, Matthew no longer is with the city. We did, however, was fortunate enough to hire a new senior transportation planner that we will later on have an item before you tonight that she'll be presenting. We're also anticipating to have one more new colleague joining us, hopefully by the end of October. Currently, we are still waiting to, most likely the item will either go to our new senior planner or the new associate planner that will be coming on board. So the timeline is still something that's up in the air, but we're hoping to be able to come back to you guys maybe hopefully early next year with a set of recommendations. But unfortunately, I can't promise on a timeline at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So with no other general public comments, we will move on to regular business. Under regular business, the commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. The first regular business item tonight is to accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for August 14th, 2024. Any clarification from the commission before I take public comment on the minutes? No. Seeing no hands raised. Kevin, can you please call for public comments on this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to repeat, for virtual attendees who wish to provide public comments on the agenda item E1, accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for August 14th. You may engage the raise hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I am not seeing any raised hands online, so I'll return the meeting back to the chair. Thank you.
All right. I had one quick question, but it doesn't change. The minutes are fine in my opinion, but I did have a question about the minutes where we were talking about the Santa Cruz Avenue safety study. And it was summarizing the different public comments that were made. And it says, Katie Bruzy spoke in support of student bike safety education, opposed two-way cycle track on Santa Cruz Avenue, and requested information for Olive Street. So Kevin, I don't remember what information she requested, but if there's something I should follow up on, or if there was some public information she requested, I'm happy to do that. And you can let me know what that was later. I don't remember the specifics.
Yeah, maybe we can follow up
Yeah.
offline. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that I will address that if it hasn't been addressed. But anyway, yes, I would. Does anyone have a motion to accept the minutes? Anyone want to make that motion? I'm happy to make it. Or yes, thank you, Commissioner Bailey. Makes a motion. And does anyone second the motion to accept the minutes? Okay, Commissioner Arakomos. Oh, sorry. And also Jackie. So would you like to take a roll call vote on the motion? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize. I got distracted for a second there. Who was the motion?
Oh, it was Commissioner Bailey and then
Bailey.
Commissioner Arakomos seconded.
Okay, great. Thank
It was
you
a
very
close
much.
call between her. It's really big.
I appreciate the enthusiasm. Okay, so with that, we do have a motion and a second on the table. For those that would like to vote yes to approving the minutes, if you can please raise your hand. And I think we would probably have a abstaining from Commissioner Vice Chair King, but everyone else, I think I'm seeing hands raised. So great, thank you very much.
All right, then. We can move on to the second item under regular business, which is to review and adopt resolutions to install no parking zones at 4085 Campbell Avenue, which fronts Scott Drive. Kevin Chen, our senior transportation engineer, is going to present this item. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you can just allow me a second to share my screen with you all. Here it is. Okay, so I believe in front of you is now the front page of the presentation. So again, thank you very much. Kevin Chen, Senior Transportation Engineer with the City of Menlo Park. Happy to be here tonight to present this item in front of you all. It's something that I think similar items have come to the Complete Streets Commission in the past. So I'm going to try my best to be brief about this while giving you the context of what you're trying to approve tonight. But essentially adopting resolutions to install no parking zones at 4085 Campbell Avenue driveway, which are two driveways facing Scott Avenue. So as usual, I'll briefly go over the background, the evaluation process that took place, followed by the recommendations that we're presenting to you tonight. So as I mentioned earlier, 4085 Campbell Avenue, there are actually three driveways serving this particular parcel. There's one just side of the kind of the southeast corner of the image to the top. That is the first driveway the only driveway serving Campbell Avenue. And if you recall, that particular driveway actually came to the Complete Streets Commission last year with a request to install no stopping zones. At that time, the Complete Streets Commission approved such a request. So we have went ahead and updated the curb with red curbs to to essentially enhance the site visibility of that particular driveway. Since then, the parking demand around the area has increased slightly. The property owner is seeing some additional movements of vehicles that are now kind of parking next to the two driveways that you're seeing in front of you that's on Scott Drive. So with that, they essentially propose another evaluation from city staff for the two driveways on Scott Drive, essentially the same exercise that I have done in the past. For the purpose of tonight's presentation and the staff report, we have identified the two driveways and denoted them, the one that in the yellow circle right now, the northern driveway, and then the next one called it the southern driveway. So it's for the purpose of orientations, when I say the northern, I generally mean the one to the left, southern generally to the right. So as I mentioned before, this is probably not new information for you all, but generally speaking, when we're evaluating driveway visibilities, we are looking at essentially two components. One is the speed of the street that the driveway, or in some cases, a cross street is entering into. So in this case, we're looking at 25 miles per hour for Scott Drive, which means at 25 miles per hour, the minimum stopping sight distance is 155 feet. And as you can see from the diagram to the right, that generally means the area within kind of that red arrows, we want to make sure that there's within that triangle area, there's no obstruction that would prevent a driver from seeing that far out. So essentially, if you imagine yourself being a driver on the driveway, as you're pulling out of your driveway, you want to be able to see to your left and to your right, at least 155 feet away from where you are. So we got lucky the day that we went out there, there was no cars parked on those driveways. So unfortunately, the images are not as severe as the applicant had mentioned. But if you are to picture that there's a car right next to those curbs, you can quickly realize that you'll essentially kind of block your line of sight. So this is for one of the driveways, and then this is for the southern driveway. So this one to the image to the right is probably a little bit more sort of reflective of what's out there on a daily basis, where vehicles are parking close to the driveway. It's hard for drivers that are exiting the driveway to be able to see 155 feet without completely coming out onto the street. And just to remind sort of the Complete Streets Commission, whenever we are doing such a analysis, there's usually three different ways that you can analyze this. You always come to a stop when you see a stop bar or a crosswalk. You then encroach into the crosswalk or maybe even further into the street if necessary to kind of gain your visibilities. So for the purpose of our analysis, we typically go past the stop bar because otherwise that would be very unrealistic. Our typical line of sight, we're imagining the driver is about where the curb line is. And generally speaking, what that means relative to the vehicle itself is that the front bumper is about 5 feet or so into the street. So if you picture yourself sitting where the curb lines are, the car is about 5 to 6 feet or so in front of you. So 5 or 6 feet of your car is now into the street, which may not be an issue if there's a car parked next to the curb. Your cars are about 6.5 feet wide or so, so 5 feet, you're still being protected by that parked vehicle. Or maybe there's a bike lane where our bike lanes are usually 5 to 6 feet wide or so. So the car, the front bumper of your car is still somewhat quote unquote protected by the bike lane, meaning cars that are driving on the main street shouldn't be hitting you, at least not on purpose. So I just wanted to kind of give you that perspective on when it comes to the analysis, we generally assume that's where the driver is. And, it's really a fine line because as I mentioned before, if we use the stop bar as the analysis, it's really a very conservative approach. So we want to be more realistic about how people are behaving and still be as safe as possible. So what that means, of course, is that if in order for you to get that 155 feet of visibility, meaning you have to go beyond the curb, meaning now your car, the front bumper of your car is now encroaching into driving lane, that's where that danger start to happen in general. So that's why, for the sake of analysis, we typically, if there's a parked vehicle on the curb, or if there's a bike lane next to it, we generally would allow that analysis to take place where the driver is lining up with the curb.
Kevin, can you just go back a slide?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I just had a quick question for
Mhm.
the visual. I'm sorry, the visual before this one. I think?
Before this one? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So on the right, where we see the red curb kind of stopping within our,
Mhm,
on the
yeah,
slide,
mhm.
is the proposal to continue that red curb and onward down that curb to continue the red?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would it be, I don't know if you can say, because obviously there's not measurements shown here, but
Yeah.
would it be kind of up to the point where we're seeing a parked car, or would it be beyond that point?
You'll probably be beyond that point. So this is the southern driveway, which means the recommendation would be 40 feet, additional 40 feet of a
Additional
curb, which
40
would
feet.
most likely be, go past that vehicle that's currently in the photo.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the other thing I'm noticing, although I know you can't really say what's typical because there's only probably been one site visit made or whatever, but is that there's not a lot of cars parked on the streets. I mean, this is sort of is this like a weekday, middle of the day type of thing?
Yeah, so the analysis kind of took place. It was kind of an early morning.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was because we try to be as random as possible when we go out there and do site evaluation. So I believe this was on a weekday, more towards early on in the morning. I think sometime between 9 to 11 o'clock a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a sort of a better visualization, bird's eye view of the diagram. Hopefully a good illustration of what I've been saying so far, but in the picture format. So as you can tell, we are assuming that the driver, again, is lining up relatively where the curb is, which means the front of your car is still being protected by the parked vehicles. To be able to look left and right to get 155 feet of side visibility, that generally means we need to push away any, so the nomenclature of, triangle, side distance triangle, you can see that to the, where the word Scott Drive is, you can see that triangle. Essentially, that's kind of the triangle we're talking about here. The purpose is to make sure that whatever that's within that triangle is not obstructing the view of the driver. So as you can see, if this street was 35 miles per hour, that 155 feet would be longer, and therefore that triangle would be bigger. This is basically the southern driveway, similar to the one to the north, 155 feet on either side. Here, it's a straightaway portion of Scott Drive versus the previous northern driveway. Half the portion to the north is actually also on a curve, which generally makes it a little bit more difficult to see. Okay, so here is our staff's recommendation as well as some next steps. So our recommendation tonight in front of you for 4085, the two driveways for 4085 Campbell Avenue, the northern driveway, we're recommending a no new parking zone or basically the additional red curb of 50 feet to the north. And that would be the portion that is within the horizontal curve or the curvature of the road. South of that driveway, 20 feet of new curb for 4085 Campbell Avenue. The north, we're recommending an additional 50 feet. For the south side, we're recommending an additional 40 feet of red curb. Oh, sorry. And then I should mention that because the item coming before you tonight, we're seeking for Complete Streets Commission approval, which is within your power by the Muni Code. Any residents, business owners, or property owners within the city of Menlo Park, actually just doesn't even have to be within the city of Menlo Park, they do have the right to make an appeal to the city council on your decision tonight. So if your decision tonight, either yes or no vote to the recommendations, those people would have 15 days to appeal that decision. That appeal would then go to the city council, where we present the same presentation. We'll look at it again, see what the reason behind the appeal was, see if the reason raised to the top of us changing our recommendation, whatever the outcome of that is, it will go to the city council for final approval. If we do get appeals, obviously that's a whole new process. Assuming if we don't get any appeals, we would then include this as a work order to the next batch of work orders that we have for our either our maintenance team or our on-call contractor. So with that, I will conclude my presentation and happy to answer any clarifying questions. Thank you.
Are there any clarifying questions from the commission before we take public comment? Yes.
Just out of curiosity, like as part of this, when we look at when we decide what the stopping distance is based on the speed limit, do we ever look at what the 85th percentile speed limit is? Like, what's the actual sightline needs? Do we consider that at all? Or do we just go with the speed limit, even though we know that people are regularly exceeding it? And that sight lane actually needs to be longer than what we're giving?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Generally speaking, we do go by the sign speed limit. I would say with my tenure with the city, we haven't really gone out of our way to increase that speed limit to be reflective of more than 80, what you call the 85 percentile. Generally speaking, a lot of our requests come from local streets where we don't have that data unless we want to purposely collect the data. But your point is noted that sometimes you do see higher speed than the actual sign.
Okay, and then the other question is just not particular to this, but just in the presentation. So as a practice, we actually accept a sight line that requires vehicles to be in the bike lane.
I'm sorry.
So if the safety zone for a car is where parked cars are, and then it's an additional it's also a safety zone, the bike lane, right? That we don't actually count that. We count the bike lane as part of their acceptable stopping place for sightline purposes.
That's correct. It's just generally because the bike lanes in our city are generally 5 feet or so. Some areas maybe 4.5, but generally 5 feet or so. So that covers that front bumper area that I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a conversation we should have someday.
Can I get your clarification, Commissioner Seaborn, on what, I'm picturing that street as you're talking, and I'm trying to figure out whether you mean that if a car weren't parked there, a bike would be biking in the parking? They're sharing that space? Is that?
No, it's more, it's a general, it's more a general as this, as part of it was like what our sort of practices and what is a reasonable, like, we're not counting where the stop line is, right? Where the, whatever
Yeah.
line we touch. So inside the parking is okay. I guess what I'm saying, I'm looking at all of the other places in the city where cars need to encroach in the bike lane in
Mm,
order to be able to see.
Okay.
And I'm understanding that
Oh, I see.
we're just okay, we're just accepting that as part of their available.
I see. As
Um,
part of what they have to do.
Exactly, as
with
part of
their-
what they have to do, we're not, that's not a thing that we
Ah.
would necessarily create red zones to prevent,
I see.
Right,
if I
yeah.
understand
Do
correctly.
we know if there are other cities have practices to prevent that, like either by creating some sort of red zone, or is it something like factoring that in and then extending the sight line or making it?
Yeah, I think that, and that would be probably a more of a rare case, even within our city as well, because generally in order to put in a bike lane, you essentially have to remove parking anyways. So there's not that many cases where we have the bike lane and then
Oh, I
a road
see.
of parking adjacent to it, just simply because there's just not enough right of way for many of our streets here. I only purposely mentioned the bike lane just to kind of give you a perspective of what that looks like. But I would say almost 100% of our requests is because it's next to a parked vehicle than a bike lane, just simply because we have to remove parking in order to put in a bike lane. So that situation doesn't really arise by itself, at least not within our city.
Thank you. I was just, a couple of things I thought of while you
Oh,
were.
Thank you.
Right.
Does anyone else have Commissioner Rahman?
Need to help me. I have some background questions.
Yeah.
When I look at this, I don't see a Vision Zero impact one way or the other. It's not going to decrease severe injuries or fatalities, correct?
I would respectfully disagree with that, because the goal of this exercise is to make sure that the drivers have the adequate minimum sightline, which means they don't in the first place.
But
So that means they are essentially try to get into the main street
so what would
with
you what would
inadequate
you
sightline.
I mean, I understand
Yeah.
conceptually,
Yeah.
but from a measurement point of view, it's doubtful, right?
Oh, in this case, it would be a vehicle-to-vehicle collision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it still falls
Not
under
a-
our
not a
Vision Zero
Vision Zero,
plan.
yeah.
I mean,
And from
yeah.
a complete streets perspective, I don't see a treatment for pedestrians or bikes or anything. I'm not.
Right,
that proposal.
I would certainly more so agree with that assessment. It's not necessarily from a complete streets treatment standpoint, it's more of a safety
And just back,
standpoint.
just keep me backing up on the work plan. I think our 2024-25 objective was to look at the policy
Mhm.
and this appears to be a spot treatment.
Yes, and something that I forgot to mention, I probably should have, and that's a mistake on my end. I probably should have acknowledged the robo appeal that have taken place last year by the city council as well, which have, from a policy standpoint, will essentially make us double back and look at some of the requests from a residential area.
Yeah.
This is a commercial area, which is slightly different than
But
the,
this isn't directly addressing a policy.
right.
So when I look at this and then, kind of think about just other stuff that's going on, just take Mr. Kirsch's earlier question about something that's been on
Mhm.
the city for a while.
Yep.
How does this one bubble up to be a priority? I assume it's within the last year that this has come up because of additional, work plans and stuff.
Mhm.
So how does this bubble up? Meanwhile, other ones that I think have perhaps more direct impact on Vision Zero, complete streets, and that. How does this one bubble up compared to other ones? Just from a background point of view.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question for sure. And if the conversation is between this versus, say, the Slow Street program that Mr. Kirsch mentioned, that is.
Or any.
Or
You can
any,
make a
right,
number,
yeah. Yeah, so for the Safe Slow Street program, that is a matter of just us getting to that point of it's on hiatus. We have the direction from the city council to start revisiting that. It's at this point, it's mainly a resource constraint. If you want to compare it to some other projects that we have going on, for example, we have corridor studies along Middlefield, Middle, etc. I would say this, I would consider this to be, as you kind of mentioned, a bit more of a reactive approach. We got a safety concern from a resident. We evaluated that. We deemed that there is a safety concern, and we address it accordingly. If something that we are receiving falls under a different category and that category is being worked on, then that essentially becomes part of that queue. And that doesn't mean we're not working on that category. It just means now it's part of that queue versus this one is the queue over here. So I would generally say that when it comes to safety elements, we're not necessarily saying, it's our best judgment to make sure that, okay, we want to make sure that if it's a safety element, that we address it accordingly. And so, for example, if it's a driveway concern, then we try to address it as soon as we can as well. The Slow Street program, NTMP, what we have done is we have start collecting volume and speed survey information just so that once we can hit the ground running, we have those information readily available. So I apologize, it's not quite a black and white line that I can draw perfectly for you, but I guess the kind of the main takeaway is we try to kind of just consolidate all the safety requests into different buckets and just continue to work through those buckets one by one.
I mean, you can see where it can be a little confusing.
No, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and if it's, a resource constraint, why not put resources against the things that have the bigger impact?
Yeah, and I think that's constantly something that we're struggling with, and that's also something that really is, well, at least from a staff perspective, what we're trying to achieve is achieve the city council's priorities and goals. And generally speaking, those are set for us every year. We try to achieve those projects. So the projects that are on top of the priority, we make sure we address them. We assign the appropriate amount of resources towards them. And everything else that is not necessarily mentioned explicitly, we still try to continue to, make progress for those projects. But some of that resource constraints does kind of play a role into that as well.
Okay. Are there any other clarifying questions from the commission before I take public comment? No. Kevin, can you please call for public comment on this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So for virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment on this particular item E2, let me just make an announcement of the item. E2, adopt resolutions to install no parking zones at 4085 Campbell Avenue, fronting Scott Drive. You may engage the raise hand feature, or if you are calling in from a landline or cell phone, press 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I am not seeing any raised hands virtually, so I will return the meeting back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Now is my turn to ask the commission for any feedback on this item. Oh, yes, Commissioner Arcamos.
Sorry, maybe this counts as a clarifying question. You had mentioned that there was an increase in parking needs recently, like an uptick in local parking there. Is there a reason for that, or it just?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a bit of a shift just based on some of the additional red curves that were put in recently around the area. I can't definitively say whether or not there's additional demand. It was something that was shared with us by the business owner. So, but we didn't collect the data before, after to kind of confirm.
It could just be the people from our previous red curb implementation moving.
Exactly, yeah.
I know I brought this up during the call, excuse me, during the presentation, but I'm just also wanting to get a sense of the availability. Obviously, we're taking away parking spaces. Is there a general understanding from the staff around the availability of parking in that area for people? So if we do add red curbs, they won't have trouble finding parking?
Yeah, based on our anecdotal and evaluate or observation, there's still capacity
Okay.
within the neighborhood area. So in this case, I'm considering the Bohannon Business District.
Yeah.
That area as a
Okay.
whole. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's no more feedback, does anyone want to make a motion on this item? Commissioner Seabrian.
I move to approve the recommended red curb distances.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner, Vice Chair King is seconding that motion.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion by Commissioner Seabrian, second by Vice Chair King. For those commissioners that would like to vote affirmative to the two resolutions, if you can please raise your hand. Okay, I'm seeing Commissioners Bailey, Iracomos, Chair Ko, Vice Chair King, and Commissioner Seabrian. For any commissioners that would like to vote no or abstain or no vote, I see a hand from Commissioner Altman. Okay, so I think that means we have 5-1, so the motion does pass. Generally, I think sometimes we will offer the no vote an opportunity to state the reason for it. I don't know, not necessarily. Okay, so great. So with a 5-1 vote, that means the motion passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Under regular business, we will now move on to item E3. Item E3 is provide feedback on the Complete Streets checklist for the Willow Road, State Route 114, separated bikeway and pedestrian improvements project. I have the pleasure of introducing Katrine. How did you pronounce your last name? Maki. Katrine Maki, who is a new senior transportation planner on the staff. Thank you. Welcome. Who will be introducing and presenting this item.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. So we'll just let Katrine take a couple of minutes to share her screen and pull up the presentation.
All right.
Okay.
I think it's done. Wonderful. All right. My name is Katrine Maki, Senior Planner with City of Menlo Park. And I'm here to present the Complete Streets checklist for project on Willow Road, the separated bikeway and pedestrian improvements project. Sorry.
Talk to the microphone a little bit.
I'll
You
lean
can kind
forward
of
a little bit.
move it right toward your, I'm used to this. You have to kind of move it right toward your mouth, unfortunately.
There we go. Thank you, Kevin. First, I'll provide a background on the project and the specific checklist. Then we'll walk through the checklist and ask for feedback from the commission. A background on the grant. This is a grant that we're applying for through the MTC. They released a call for projects for the Regional Measure 3 Safe Routes to Transit Bay Trail Grant. So this grant provides $150 million for projects that improve biking and walking to transit and connections to the Bay Trail. And they provide $75 million for the first round of the grant cycle. So eligible projects include infrastructure, plans, and quick build projects. And there's no max limit that you can request for, and no local match is required for this particular grant. As part of the grant application, we need to provide a Complete Streets checklist. So this checklist is required for every project that's applying for the grant that I just told you about for this regional discretionary transportation funding. And this checklist requires a city's BPAC or the Complete Streets Commission review prior to applying for the grant. This is used to ensure that projects are consistent with the MTC's Complete Streets policy and their goal of accommodating modes of walking, biking, rolling, and using transit within the transportation network. That's why we're bringing this forward to you tonight. So the current status of the project overall, is city staff is working with Caltrans, the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, and the consultant team on a preliminary design. The design's not complete yet. And the design includes, I'll just give you kind of a brief overview based on this map. The section of Willow Road from the kind of the beginning of the Dumbarton Bridge there at the end, all the way to Durham Street, which is the intersection that's signalized right in front of the VA hospital. The project is, for the most part of the segment, going to be a Class 4 separated bicycle facility. And additionally, it provides some enhanced bus stops and crossing. So I think it allows you to travel along Willow, but also to more easily cross Willow. There'll be new high visibility crosswalks in certain areas and just brand new crosswalks at O'Brien and Bay. So walking you to the checklist, I'll just kind of show you the answers that we had to provide in this checklist that we're assuring MTC that you've reviewed. So the first topic in the checklist is to confirm that this project is relevant and included in local plans, which it is in 4 plans. The Vision Zero action plan mentions an improvement along this corridor, along with the city's transportation master plan, the San Mateo County Comprehensive Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, and the Caltrans District 4 plan all call out an improvement needed here along the corridor. This question is wondering if the project area contains segments of the active transportation network. And if it does it adhere to the NACTA requirement of all ages and all abilities design principles? And it does. This project is upgrading from areas where there's either no bike facility or a Class 2 bike lane and upgrading it to a Class 4. That's exactly why the project exists, is to provide a facility that addresses all ages and abilities because of the amount of the speed and the amount of vehicles that are traveling along Willow. The Class 2 is not adequate for serving all ages and all abilities. And additionally, the project not only is the Class 4, but also the crossings. So it improves the crossings as well. This question is wanting to know if there's an improvement needed because the area is a high injury network corridor, which it is in our Vision Zero plan. So this Willow Road was identified as a high collision corridor in the Vision Zero action plan, which is the map you see on the slide there. Additionally, it was also called out in the San Mateo County Youth High Injury Network, which was developed by CCAG and the San Mateo County Office of Education. And this is also an important safe routes to school corridor serving multiple schools in the area, including Belhaven Elementary.
I think at some point in the staff report, it said something about 10 schools, 10 traffic from, student traffic from 10 schools somehow intersected with Willow at some point in time. Maybe I got that wrong, but it seemed like a lot of schools. Can you just go back up to that other? Thank you. Right. Can we just have just a moment to look at the slide for a second? Yeah. Belhaven Elementary, that was another thing that was pointed out, I thought, in the staff report very well, that, because it serves both East Palo Alto and Menlo Park, kids were having to go across Willow to get there. Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your stopping.
This question addresses safety and comfort. And so we're asked to describe how the project provides a low stress transportation facility. We did measure level of traffic stress in the city's transportation plan, and the corridor rated the highest bicycle level travel of stress, the highest level 4, which means that a cyclist is interacting with high speed traffic in close proximity, probably also high amount of traffic, high ADTs. So by creating a separated bikeway, you're providing a lower stress transportation facility on a high stress corridor by separating the bicyclists from traffic. The checklist wants to confirm that we're coordinating with the local transit facilities that may be affected. There are 4 bus stops along the corridor, and city staff has been coordinating with AC Transit, with Samtrans, and the bus stops are not going to be changed by the project. They will be enhanced in certain areas along Willow, but it's not going to impact transit operations. And so the transit agencies have had the opportunity to review the project. There is not a mobility hub within the project area. This is something I think defined by MTC as probably a little bit more of an official mobility hub than you might envision. It's not to say that there's not multiple modes going along the corridor, but it's just not an official MTC mobility hub in the area. I tried to get that one to say yes, but I couldn't find a way. This question is about design. They wanted to know which class designation is being provided in the project. Again, this is a class 4, which is either separated by a curb, and there's short segments of the project also separated by a buffer with bollards. So either way it's separated, most of it will be curb separated. And this is consistent with the California MUTCD and NACTO design guidelines, standard design. Question is asking about equity. This project will improve active transportation in an equity priority community. So there's census tracts identified there that are equity priority communities with a higher ranking. And tonight we are checking off this box to say that the Complete Streets Commission has reviewed the checklist and that the proposed project complies with the California Complete Streets Act of 2008. So for information for you, the next steps for city staff on this project will be to submit the grant for funding. And in the meanwhile, this project is already currently partially funded, so there is work happening on it regardless. And that money is coming from the San Mateo County Transportation Authority for $3.5 million. And then there's local matching funds of $3.1 million that are moving this project through design and environmental review. Once that's been done, it will get taken to Caltrans for their blessing, because we're crossing Caltrans right of way to cross 101. And so once they've seen it, provided comments, reviewed it, then we're going to bring it back to you for that more detailed review so you can get into the nitty-gritty of the design itself. I know, that's the fun part. I told you it was doing something boring today. And with that, I am done with my presentation and can take any questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Katrina, and welcome again.
Thank you.
Any clarifying questions from the commission before we take public comment?
I have a quick question. Would there be any reason to suspect that Caltrans would say no to any of the plans?
I'm pausing to see if Christiane wants to. I don't believe so. I think they've seen it. This wouldn't be the first time they're seeing it, so they're seeing iterations. Christiane, raise your hand if you have more to add to that.
My apologies. I am going to go ahead and promote Christiane to the panelist status,
Sure.
so that way she can jump online if she wants to.
Okay.
So let's give her a second or two.
Should we introduce her to the public?
Yes. So maybe perhaps Katrine, for the purpose of just this question, maybe I'll stop sharing your screen so that way we can have
Okay, there we
everyone
go.
visually. There you go. And then, okay. Christiane, I think you can now freely speak.
Okay. Hi, good evening. Christiane Choi, Senior Transportation Engineer with the city's Transportation Division. And we are working directly with Caltrans on this project. So we have recently signed a co-op agreement with them to work together. They had originally done a preliminary document. I forgot what, I think it's called a project initiation document that they started. And then we have now, followed up to the next phase of the project in preliminary engineering and design. So yeah, we meet with Caltrans kind of on a monthly basis just to check in on status of the project and coordination. So I don't think there's going to be necessarily an objection. There might be some tweaks to the design, and at some point we'll, once we're ready, we'll come back to the commission to go over that design.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Does anyone have any other clarifying questions? I think Commissioner Sebrian.
I'm not sure if it's clarifying.
Mhm.
I think I can hold it.
Oh, okay. Keep marinating on that one. Oh, we have a clarifying question over here.
Does this project include, I know you mentioned the overpass over 101 being part of the Caltrans right of way. Is that part of this whole corridor, or is that a separate thing? I mean, I know it's been recently upgraded, but would that be part of this, or is that a separate?
It's included as part of the design. So and that is already traffic separated, I believe. So it's just improvements to route the cyclists off to that traffic separated area.
Great, thank you.
I have a couple. I'm hoping they qualify as clarifying. The first one, I don't know if you can give us this, but at the very end with next steps in the presentation, I wondered around what time do you think, what would be the timing of hearing back about whether the grant's approved? And from then, I mean, if you can give us an estimate, and from then, has the city thought about kind of a strategy for construction? I know that Willow is so busy, and I'm just wondering if, you're thinking about doing this over the summer, or will it disrupt traffic? I'm just curious.
I don't think we have a timeline on construction yet.
Right.
But
Yeah.
working backwards, I don't know when the grant award would be. They're on an annual
Okay.
cycle though, so
Annual
it'll
cycle, okay.
be a while.
Okay.
And
Oh, hello again.
Hi,
Go ahead.
if I could
Yeah.
help answer that question on the grant award. I believe that the MTC will be reviewing the applications this fall, and then early next year, they would award or at least select the projects, and then probably, I think it's maybe mid next year that they would award the actual grants.
Okay. Thank you for that. Another question I had was, you mentioned in the slide, San Mateo County Youth High Injury, I think it was report or something. And I was like, what's that? I've never seen that before, but I'm assuming, Kevin, this is probably a question for you, that type of data was incorporated into the Vision Zero data? Like, we can put this on a, get back to us type of thing, but I know in Vision Zero, they were amalgamating a lot of data from different sources in order to decide what to categorize as a high crash corridor. And I'm assuming they pulled from that, but I thought that was pretty interesting. I never heard that report before.
Yeah. Do you mind repeating the name of the report?
It was called San Mateo County Youth High Injury, I think, report. It was on slide 7, I think.
Okay.
And not to stop the meeting, but I just wanted to maybe put a note that could we.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have the
No
answer
worries.
off the top of my head. I can definitely confirm that
Sure.
and follow up with the commission offline. But I would
Okay.
suspect if it's an official record, then it was incorporated into the Vision Zero. Because what part of the Vision Zero effort was looking at the collision data that we have, and as you mentioned, identifying what the high collision corridors are. And there's
Yeah.
a set of definitions that have established by the state. We follow those definitions. So there's definitely a desire at that time to make sure that we have the most comprehensive set of data possible.
Yeah.
So if this was part of an official database, then most
They
likely it was
probably pulled from
included,
it.
yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll circle back on that. The last one was, I'm afraid I don't know this, and I wondered if this could potentially be provided to us. So that was very interesting that the reason this could qualify as a class 4 is because number of vehicles and the speed on the road. It makes perfect sense. But I know in the past, like when we were talking, we were getting public comments about things like Middle Avenue, and some of the residents were asking for like class 4 or separated bike lanes. I guess I didn't know that those are the attributes that would qualify something to be a class 4 bike lane. So I wonder, Kevin, if there is something that you could share with us around I don't know what kind of qualifies, if there's certain metrics that might help us, or if there's not, if it's just a judgment call, if it's like the staff or a city gets to look at, like speed and number of vehicles, but it's not an actual metric.
It is more of a judgment call
Okay.
in the sense of available assets as well. You've got to have room to put it in,
Right. Okay.
funding, the resources, that kind of thing.
Right.
Also probably a long enough space to implement it, depending,
Yeah.
a block here and there.
Sure.
It depends. It's very context dependent.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Really appreciate that insight. Okay, I'm done with my clarifying questions. So, and isn't it, everyone else seems to be done? Yes, okay. Kevin, would you call for public comments on this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So my apologies. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So for virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment on tonight's regular business item E3 to provide feedback on complete streets checklist for the Willow Road separated bikeway and pedestrian improvement project, you may engage the raise hand feature, or if you are calling in from a landline or cell phone, press 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I am looking in the Zoom meeting and I do not see any hands. So I will return the meeting back to the chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Now we turn to the commission members. If you have any feedback on this request, on the complete streets checklist for the Willow Road separated bikeway and pedestrian improvements project. Yes, Commissioner Seabrian.
So I have, they're kind of questions about it, but one of them is the ability to turn left from this, like, confuses my brain, southbound Willow on into East Palo Alto. Like currently on a bicycle, it's quite difficult. And I'm curious, as we put in these really great protected bike lanes, is there going to be a clear way for bicycles to be able to turn left off of Willow?
Most likely it will be to cross as a pedestrian.
Okay.
But then yes.
Okay. And awesome. And then the other question I have is whether the city has come up with a good plan for cleaning those protected bikeways. Because over the freeway is currently kind of a mess. So this will happily join that. And so hopefully that's like enough critical mass that we can yeah. Anyway, that's my second question.
Commissioner Seabrian, what is it like over the freeway? Is it just there's debris all the time?
There's a lot of debris. Like I sometimes don't use it because it seems like it might make my tires flat.
I would say I almost never use it because of the debris. I prefer to bike in the actual traffic lane because of that. So
That's
I
not
could
good.
make note of it, and I think that's something that would be part of an implementation plan as we move to construct the facility, that can be considered as maintenance as part of implementing the project for sure. Makes sense.
Well,
Thanks.
on that same note, are you prohibited from cleaning it because it's the overpass and it's not Menlo Park and it's Caltrans?
What I'm commenting is on the whole corridor. I don't know the answer of jurisdiction.
Yeah, I would say not necessarily preventing us to do so, but we do, because of the fact that it's Caltrans right away, we typically will share those concerns with our Caltrans colleagues. And if it gets addressed, obviously we're happy that they would do so, but if we need to step in at some point, we would happily do so as well.
Yeah, maybe nobody's raising their hand to do it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we could, let's circle back on that because I could see adding it to the agenda of a meeting or raising city council.
Yeah, I would say, maybe a couple of years ago, we kind of received a similar request. So Caltrans District 4 on their website, they have a customer service portal where anybody can go online and drop a pin and request either a sign be replaced or in this case, streets be clean. So with that request, I believe we have went ahead and essentially made that request. It's my understanding that it did get clean. It didn't stay clean for too long, apparently. So we'll go ahead and submit another request on the city's behalf as well.
So
I would just add too that the, like, you know, the pedestrian bike bridge, like we're growing our number of places that aren't accessible by a regular street cleaner. And it's really awesome if you're a bicycle looking for protection from traffic, but, yeah,
yeah.
we need some capacity to clean them, you know, regularly.
Yeah, I think that's the issue, right? Because if it's not somehow codified into the process of, you know, some public works vehicle or whatever, or, you know, routine cleaning, then I'm afraid it won't get done. And it's kind of ironic, honestly, that because there's debris, people are not biking in the bike lanes, they're biking in the traffic, right? So, yeah, we'll take that up. We can totally talk about that in this meeting.
And I was gonna say, like, I'm fully in favor of like
Mhm.
protected bike lanes. And,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, I assume we'll figure out how to solve this other problem. I just like to bring it
Yep.
up.
Yep, thank you. It's good input. Does anyone else have any feedback for Katrine and Kevin and Katrine? Sorry, Christian, from the city staff around this checklist? Yes.
Okay, this is also perhaps more of a clarifying question. I think when I was initially reading this, it mentioned O'Keefe, bringing this all
Yes.
the way back to O'Keefe, and now
Yes.
I saw only to Durham. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
And I know that I think particularly the stretch of Willow that is from O'Keefe to that intersection with the VA is does not have any bike lane at the moment, and is particularly anecdotally from my experience a high collision area. I don't know if that data gets incorporated because I think because it's near that private school, but it is also like a commuter area. So I don't know, you know, if adults get hit, they probably don't report it if it's like a minor collision, but that I do know anecdotally several collisions that have happened there that have not like been reported to police or whatever. So yeah. Yeah.
So what is that? Can we get a clarifying response in terms of, I had noticed the same thing, right? In the staff report, it says going up to the Durham and then O'Keefe, excuse me. And then it said Durham and orally you said Durham. So which one is it? Do we know or?
I can answer that question. Yeah, so it is starting from O'Keefe in the eastbound direction, going towards Bayfront Expressway. It'll start there. It won't be a class 4 bikeway though, because there's not enough right of way. So it would be to try to add in at least a class 2 bike lane, starting at O'Keefe. And then once we do have room, we would have the class 4. It's class 4 for most of the corridor, but that section of O'Keefe to Chester or so might only be a class 2.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sebelius. Thanks for asking that. Yeah.
The other question I have is, if memory serves me correctly, the Hamilton Willow intersection was potentially slated to be reconfigured in the new Willow Village thing. I don't know where the Willow Village thing is. I'm just curious as how the timing of the bike lanes and the Hamilton intersection redoing, like if in fact that's still going to happen, like are we going to build something and then have to tear it down to fix it for this new configuration? Like what is the status of all that?
I think that's me again. So yeah, we right now our design is to not so most of the class 4 design is going to be a raised class 4 bike lane. But in the portion where Willow Village would be located, we propose to just add a barrier in the buffered area so that we don't run into the issue of them coming in and ripping out something that we just put in. And we are working with them in terms of their design of their frontage to include the raised bike lane. So it would continue once they do come in for construction.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other feedback? I just want to say I am so thrilled to see this checklist and that the city is moving forward, with Willow, because there've been so many times since we've been on the commission that Willow has come up, different intersections, different issues, and it's great to see the staff taking a comprehensive approach and solving a lot of things at once through this proposal. Really, really thrilled to see it. I know that the crosswalks and intersections there have been a really needed attention. So thank you very much for your hard work. I would like to call for a motion, but I'm also happy to make that motion. And I will make a motion that we approve the Complete Streets checklist for the Willow Road Separated Bikeway and Pedestrian Improvements Project that was presented to us tonight by city staff. Does anyone have a second or a different motion?
Can I ask one quick question?
Of course.
Actually, of Kevin. And sorry, this occurred to me about 10 minutes ago that I should ask you this. I was a signatory for the Parents for Safe Routes letter in support of this. Do I need to recuse myself from a vote with this body today?
No, yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
In which case I'll second it.
Commissioner Bailey steps in with a second. All right, Kevin, does anyone have an alternate motion or an amendment of any kind or anything they want to say?
Okay, so we do
No?
have a motion by the chair and a second by Commissioner Bailey. So for commissioners that would like to vote yes to the checklist or to the motion in this case, if you can please raise your hand. I'm seeing unanimous hands. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Kevin, I believe we decided to skip E4.
That's correct. So yeah, just for a bit
Thank
of
you.
context, we had originally added this item to the agenda in case any of the subcommittees would have any reports or announcements or et cetera. I think at this point, the answer to that question is no. So I think through the
Yep.
chair, we are electing to essentially postpone this item until further a different date.
Yes, thank you. So under informational items, city staff provides an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. The first informational item tonight is update on major project status. Kevin, do you have any updates?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair, and I actually have a pretty long list as I was
Oh.
putting this together. So do
Okay.
bear with me, and happy
Thank
to
you.
share with you all a kind of a follow-up email with the dates, links, etc. But here is just a quick announcement on those items. So I'm going to start with some city business and then move on to kind of outside of city, other agencies, and then conclude with a couple of fun events. So the first and foremost, I mentioned earlier about the TA grant that we had finally submitted the application for. I just wanted to let the commission know that the timeline for that grant, we're hoping to know the result by hopefully mid to late November. And then so hopefully by then we'll know whether or not we're successful at those two grants. So the two grants for the two intersections and the Safe Track Corridor study. Moving on to Neelam Park, as many of you know, we currently have under the, as part of the overall Middle Avenue Complete Streets project, we have two pilots that are happening right now. One is the reconfiguration of the Neelam Park frontage parking. The other one is Blake Avenue. I'm happy to report that relative to for the Neelam Park frontage parking, we have now a tentative construction date. It is October 21st. So that particular construction activity, we are taking a two-phase approach. Phase one is going to be reconfiguring the parking lot itself. So this is the road of parking in front of the pickleball court and the softball court. So that's going to take approximately a day or so. The reconfiguration is going to go from angle parking to perpendicular parking. It would essentially allow us to add, I think, 12 more spaces or 9 more spaces. So therefore, increasing, as you all know, one of the feedback that we got from that project was a need for more capacity, for more parking capacity. So doing so would allow us to add more parking spaces. Doing that construction activity, the section in the back where it's serving Little House and the majority of the softball court field, it will continue to be open and accessible. Phase 2 is the frontage parking, where we are converting the parallel parking spaces to backing angle spaces. So as you all know, a backing angle space might be new to the City of Menlo Park. It's not new to the Bay Area, but it is new to the City of Menlo Park. We anticipate that particular construction activity to take up to 3 days or so. So if you imagine, October 1st, 21st, we'll take care of the parking lot. Hopefully the rest of the week, we'll do the frontage parking. Our goal is to be able to open up the entire backing angle parking row at the same time, again, and be able to be in the field. And we have solicited the help of our PD colleagues to be there as well. So we're hoping to have a successful opening day, so to speak. The other part that I just wanted to briefly mention, we did also get some feedback from folks that are using Blake Avenue, and then a request to look into potentially enhancing the existing closure, which right now is essentially being done with post blocking off the access of Blake Street to Middle Avenue. There have been some concern about activities that are encouraging either objects or little kids to kind of go past Blake Avenue into Middle Avenue, which it would be kind of an unfortunate event. So we're kind of looking into that right now to see what we can do to kind of further improve the safety element of that particular closure. I'm moving on to a couple other things. I just wanted to kind of quickly update the commission here. The Caltrain Quiet Zone project. We've been kind of in the 30% design phase. Happy to announce that we have now received the 70% design phase from the consultant. So the next step is to work with our colleagues from the CIP, the Capital Improvement Program division, to review that submittal. So obviously, we're still pretty early on in the design phase, but happy to announce that we're making a good progress. It's typically going from 30% to a 60%, or in this case, a 70% is a fairly huge jump in terms of design details. So it's a really good achievement on our end there. El Camino Real and Ravenswood. So many of you know that this is the last missing leg of crosswalk. There's been some stories told here at the dais, but I'm happy to announce that we have received comments from Caltrans for the 100% submittal. So we are currently going through their comments. We're also working with Caltrans on coming up with a maintenance agreement. So as you know, the intersection itself, the entire corridor of El Camino is Caltrans right away. So the city, as a lead agency, applied for an encroachment permit to add that fourth missing crosswalk. So as a result of that, there's typically a maintenance agreement that needs to take place between agencies. So that is something that we're currently working on as well. So those are some of the city updates. Moving on to counties, there are three
Wait.
things that.
Before we move on, can I
Yeah.
ask 2 questions?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. And first of all, these updates are excellent. Really appreciate your looping back on these projects and taking the time to do so. But my 2 questions were, when in the phases of the pilot, of putting the pilot in place for Milan parking, when people won't be able to park in front along the road, they'll have to park in the back. We know from the past, it seems like people are hesitant to park in the back, or they're unaware they can park in the back. So can we put some sort of temporary straw horse signs or something like that, just saying there's parking available in the back?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, thank you very much for raising that question. So as part of the public outreach, we have been, we're working on a poster. So what we're gonna
Okay.
hoping to do, as a matter of fact, we're hoping to do that tomorrow, is to deploy some A-frames with posters that notify this upcoming construction activity, the dates, the duration,
Great.
but also letting folks know that the back end parking will continue to be open and accessible during the construction phases.
Thank
We're
you.
also going to be doing that. We're going to update the project website to reflect that as well, and then using our social media platforms to get that message out. Yeah, we're doing everything we can to get the words out.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
My second question, or at least a thought, was that when you were just talking about interacting with Caltrans, excuse me, around Ravenswood and El Camino. So appreciate that's moving forward. You said the word maintenance agreement, so I thought, is it possible to do a maintenance agreement with Caltrans on the overpass of Willow? So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't really know when maintenance agreements can qualify to exist, but maybe that's one approach. That's it for
Yep,
me.
noted. Okay, so moving on to county-led efforts. As you all know, one of the one that is currently ongoing is the Ringwood and Coleman study. So I believe one or maybe two of you have attended the September 17 their BPAC meeting. So I think generally speaking, there was some feedback that we received from the BPAC members. Really, the next step that I wanted to update the commission on is just that we have received those information and staff is going to be, going back internally to come up with a set of next steps to move forward with. So not much to report at this point, and obviously when there's more definitive and more concrete steps that we're going to take, I'll be more than happy to report that back to the commission as well.
I guess I have a comment on that really quick. I have no idea what kind of feedback you've gotten. I have no visibility to it, but it seemed to me, having attended a couple of meetings now about Ringwood and Coleman, that they're two quite separate. There's consensus there seems to be consensus quite clearly on some of the Ringwood improvements. At least that's how it felt to me, and maybe discussion ongoing around Coleman. But I would hate to have that project, like one thing slow down another. It just seems like it almost feels like two separate things, even though they connect physically. So I would just encourage the staff, whatever feedback you're getting, maybe there's an opportunity, to proceed with some things and not others if needed. But I would like us to be open-minded about that.
I have a quick question about that. I'm not sure that you know the answer because I think it's clearly not Menlo Park, but I think Atherton put up the little programmable signs on Ringwood maybe 2 weeks ago that say, I'm gonna try not to laugh. No parking on Ringwood, citations will be issued. I'm sort of curious, like, if you have any information about what the lead time is they're giving people, because I can see all the cars parked up, hedged against the sign that says citations will be issued still. So I'm curious if we have any idea. It is interesting that it sort of fell right on the other side of that Ringwood Coleman meeting. Like somehow Atherton must have had a conversation. I'm curious if we know what on the MA side. Yeah.
That's actually county right away. Yeah. So yeah, it was just recently brought to my attention. So we'll converse offline with our county counterparts and hopefully get some more information that I can share with you all. Yeah. Okay. So the other two that I wanted to kind of just bring to your attention. Some of you might know this, but some might not. But the county for the past 2 or 3 years had this Alameda de las Pogas / Santa Cruz Avenue corridor study that have taken place. This is really a huge effort on the county's end, and this is spanned from, I believe, Sharon or AV all the way to Sand Hill. The purpose behind that project is essentially taking some vehicular capacity away in favor of ped and bike improvements. So taking away a travel lane, putting in either new bike infrastructure and hence sidewalk infrastructure. So that project, the city doing the design, doing the planning and design phase have been pretty involved in the process. We were one of the key stakeholders. Happy to announce that they have since got the funding and are ready to go under construction. So I just wanted to bring that to your awareness that you might start seeing some construction activities going up and down along Alameda de las Pogas and Santa Cruz, and that is for that particular project. And then last one.
Sorry, Kevin, sorry.
Yeah.
Does that interact with the whatever grant, the like Safe Track grant?
Right.
that-
Not necessarily, because the county portion essentially ends at Sand Hill and Santa Cruz. So they are doing some improvement to the intersection. And then the Safe Track would essentially come and pick up whatever the leftover, whatever the rest of the improvements that we want to do that were not included in that project. So it'll be more comprehensive. But that particular county effort, I think they're doing some, I believe they're implementing some bike boxes, some no right turn on red operational changes. But generally speaking, those are probably the only signal changes that they're making.
And the Safe Track study, what's included in the grant doesn't overlap in that section, in the county section.
Right, so we'll be
of the-
looking at Sand Hill. We'll essentially look at that intersection again. I think with the there were some particular improvements that were recommended as
Yeah,
part of the
there were.
corridor study. However, if we were to be successful with the grant, most likely we'll just take another look at that intersection and see what we can do to
Mhm.
improve that intersection.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So
I
we-
believe there was a turn lane added. Is that right?
I'm sorry,
Am I wrong about that? Wasn't there a turn lane added?
for the intersection?
No, excuse me, for the Alameda section of that the county's working on.
I believe they are converting one of the lanes into like a two-way center turn
yeah,
lane. So
yeah.
kind of similar to what we have on Santa Cruz.
On Santa Cruz, yeah.
Yeah.
It strikes, when I read that, I thought, okay, well, they were doing that because they don't want to back up traffic, along.
Right, because
Yeah.
with
They're
Santa
eliminating
Cruz and
one.
Alameda de los Pocos, there's still some residential units along the corridor. So that
Yeah.
really is to provide access to those folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have construction. We also have a new, very early on stage of a new project, which is called the Alpine Row Corridor Project. Like I mentioned before, all of this I'll be kind of putting up into a summary email and share that with the commission, but this might be of interest to some of you. This is along Alpine Row, essentially from the city boundary, which is just south of Junipero,
Yep.
all the way to 280, past 280, going all the way into Patola Valley,
Huh.
where it ends at approximately close to La Mesa Drive,
Yeah.
for those folks that know where that is. So this is a project that the county is initiating. It's very early on in stage. As a matter of fact, Christiane mentioned the terminology, project initiation phase. That's exactly where this project is going to be at this point. The reason why I mentioned that project is because they have 2 community meetings coming up that the publics are welcome to attend. The 2 meetings are essentially going to be the same meeting. They're just provided on different dates. Day number 1, it will be on, sorry, give me 1 second. I just realized that what happened to my, I just realized it got cut off. So sorry, give me 1 second.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I have it in front of me if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's so the first meeting will be Wednesday, October 16th at 6 PM at Woodland School, 360 La Cuesta Drive. And then the second meeting will be the same location, Wednesday, November 13th at 6 PM.
Thank you very much. Yes. So like I mentioned, those 2 meetings, hybrid meetings, so you can attend both virtually or in person. I will be sharing the project website with you all. So our hope is that the commission here will use your outreach resource to spread the word for the county.
And so do we have a general sense of what the project's goals are? Is it a pedestrian bike thing or?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's essentially kind of a corridor study, and
Okay.
nowadays whenever you say a corridor study, they try to be as complete as possible. So they'll
Oh,
be looking at
interesting.
all aspects of the corridor. Back in 2017, they had a long-term planning phase that had a document that any of the commissioners are more than welcome to kind of browse through that document.
Okay.
In that particular document, it has some specific recommendations for the Alpine Road, that stretch of Alpine Road. Now, because of the fact that this is kind of the project initiation phase, it doesn't mean there's still an opportunity to modify it from that list as well. It could be a completely different list, or it could be just kind of that list as an initial step and then making modifications accordingly. So even though there is already a study there, this is really because of the fact that it's a project initiation phase.
Sure.
There's still opportunity to look at different improvements to go along with that corridor.
Could you help us to understand how to find this study? Is there something to search for?
Yeah. No, I'll.
Oh, you'll let us
yeah,
know. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Again, I'll provide
Oh,
that
thank
in
you.
a summary email for the commission.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Yep. And then a few dates that I wanted to kind of bring to your attention. As you all know, we have that comprehensive shuttle study that
Yep.
have been happening for a while now. So happy to report that we now have a recommended preferred service plan As a matter of fact, the project webpage has been updated with all the latest information. But what I would like to share with the commission is that we do have a virtual public webinar that will take place on Tuesday, October 15th at 7 p.m. So that particular webinar, virtual webinar, will be going over the preferred recommendations and hopefully getting feedback from the community members as well. So
Are you doing that, Kevin? Are you running the?
no,
Oh.
I think Christiane is going to be
Christiane,
handling that one. Yeah. And then I promised some fun events, so here they are. There is a opening ceremony celebration. It's a flyway trail. I don't know if folks are okay. We have this one hand nod right there. So apparently we are opening maybe we is too strong, but there's a flyway trail and a viewing area at the Ravenswood portion of the Don Edwards San Francisco Bay National Wildlife Refuge. So basically the Betwell Bayfront Park. Yeah. So there is a opening event. So if for those that are interested, it's on Saturday, October 19th from 9:30 to I believe 1 p.m. So it's like a brand new opening viewing area that's going to be opening up.
Is this the new paved trail that's gone in, like kind of near that weird yellow bridge that Meta built?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Love that thing.
Yeah. So yeah,
Does
apparently
that
there's a
connect with Willow Road?
opening ceremony. It's part of the wild. It's part of the park. Really, it's not on the Willow Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Too bad. I thought we could extend the project. Okay.
Yeah, not quite there yet. And then for those that are interested in Halloween, we have a Halloween hoopla, which has 2 events going on. On Saturday, October 26th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., there will be a downtown parade. So for you all that like to wear costumes or have little ones that like to wear costumes, we'll have a parade that you can go down Santa Cruz for. It will start the event with the parade, followed by a Halloween carnival in Fremont Park as well. So definitely welcome to attend. And then on Sunday, there is a pumpkin splash at both the Bellhaven and the Burgess pools. I'm not quite sure exactly what that is, so I'm gonna assume it's gonna be a fun event for all.
I believe that they grease the pumpkins and you can jump in and grab them and everybody gets a goodie bag.
There you go.
I believe so.
Right.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yes.
A lot more interesting. Okay.
Yep. So again, I'll share the website and all the info with you all. So those interested are more than welcome to attend. And with that, we'll conclude my update. Thank you.
Your updates have now become a must-see event. All of Menlo Park will be tuning in. That was awesome, Kevin. Thank you. I guess we should call for public comment on all the updates of major project status. And
Thank you,
otherwise.
Madam Chair. So in this case, for virtual attendees who wish to provide public comments on F1 updates on major project status, you may engage the raise hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please wait for the chair to call your name. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I am seeing no hands raised, so I pass the meeting back to the chair. Thank you.
All right. Well, the next item is F2, which is tentative Complete Streets Commission agenda. Kevin, do you have anything for that item?
No particular updates for
Okay.
the commission here, so
Thank
but
you.
happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Hearing no questions, I shall
right.
proceed to G, committee, subcommittee reports. And I guess I was the one earlier on who said, well, let's clarify. So Commissioner Bailey and Commissioner Iracomos are leading the way on our subcommittee that is going to do an inventory of an assessment of the bike rack inventory across the city. And so please chime in if you'd like to, but what happened is the chair, the vice chair, no, she was the chair, Nancy Liviker Hadley, who was the chair of EQC, but is now chairing the subcommittee at EQC that's looking at the different ways they're going to, in their work plan, they're going to reach the goals of the climate action plan, support the goals of the climate action plan the city council adopted for the city. So one of their goals within their subcommittee was to work with our commission, Complete Streets, to encourage alternate forms of transportation and reduce vehicle miles traveled. So they met with Meredith and Athena, and I was there as well to discuss different ways in which these two subcommittees could collaborate and support each other. And I thought it was an excellent conversation. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? Yeah, it was just really nice to have some collaboration across two different commissions and talk about ways that we could, support each other's goals and not overlap, but, take different lanes, but work toward the same goals. So it was a really a productive meeting on Monday of this week. All right, then. Does anyone have any other reports or updates on subcommittee work? Otherwise, nope. Okay, otherwise I will adjourn this meeting at 8:14 p.m. And before we adjourn, I also want to say we should amend the beginning to say that that Matthew was absent. I guess I'll be on the minutes. Yeah.
Right,
Since he
yeah, I
wasn't
did
able
get
to
a
dial
receive
in.
an email from Commissioner Raskoff that he was having some technical difficulty as
No
well.
problem.
So, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just amend that. And otherwise, thank you so much for your time and service, everyone. 8:14. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Oh,